What's up guys, Magnet here for another video, and this is going to be my first ladder, I guess, game that I'm showing you guys on this channel. And it's going to be me playing Protoss versus a Terran player named Epi. I am not sure who this is, and by the way, if you see the name Sidewinder and Epi, these are actually the battle.net account names versus the StarCraft IDs, so that's why these look so funny. But anyway, let's jump into the game here, and you'll notice that look how fast this pylon's coming down. That's because these workers come out super fast. With basically any race, you get one worker before you have to build a supply building. So that's a pretty intense change there. Not really a whole lot to say. Let's check out the Terran here as well. You can see he's going gas first, along with the depot coming up right now as well. So going gas first, probably going to be an early factory, stuff like that. It's going to be fairly common in this game as well. It's going to be gas first type of builds. So you can see Gateway immediately after that went down. For the Terran, since he did go gas first, his barracks is a little bit late. He goes ahead and drops that as well. Sending out a scout. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on so far. Only taking one gas right now, and I do know he's Terran, so what I'm going to try to be doing in this game is I just tried to play standard. When I played on stream, there was a lot of really random crap that people wanted me to do. So this game I was just like, okay, I'll just play a normal game. I'll just play it out the way I think it's supposed to be played out and see what happens. So right now, saving up some money for a Nexus, coming in here, trying to check to see what the Terran's doing. I made a mistake here and didn't scout in very far. I only saw the one gas in the barracks building, so I just figured, oh, it's the Reaper or something like that. And unfortunately, I have no idea what the timings are right now because the game timer actually shows real-time seconds instead of old StarCraft seconds. So the timers are wonky. The game time is wonky because of how fast it all starts. I should have realized that this was actually a barracks was super late because it was a gas first. But I go ahead and take a Nexus here. You can see my minerals piling up. There we go. Terran is going for the faster factory, which is what you're going to want to do off of a gas first. And what they try to do is they try to go Cyclone. And we'll take a look at those units here in just a second. But as far as I understand, the Cyclones are super expensive. So you'll have to go gas first if you want to open up with Cyclones and start trying to deal damage that way. So I'm just going for a mothership core here. I need to start up something else with my gas. You can see it's sitting at 50 right now, so something else is definitely ready to be done. It's going to be Stalker first, mostly because I don't really know what he's doing. I was expecting Reaper because of those timings that I saw, but it's clearly not Reaper, otherwise it would have been there by now. But SCV trying to come in here and scout. I'm being a little bit too lazy with my mothership core, so I let him get away. So the SCV lives another day. Stalker coming out now, Warp Gate coming out now as well. Pylon coming up. Just this is the weirdest thing about Heart of the Swarm, or rather, not Heart of the Swarm, Legacy of the Void, is that the timings are all really strange now. I find myself getting supply blocked all the time because I'm totally not used to how fast everything is. And it seems strange, but you're used to having these timings kind of programmed in your brain as far as when to drop more supply buildings, and it's so strange that how much that can mess you up. By the way, something cool they do is that they do have this little outline around things that are behind buildings, so that you can check for widow mines that are behind these refineries without having to do this kind of junk and look for them. So a little bit of an aid to try and prevent races from kind of getting unfair advantages by burrowing stuff in places you wouldn't expect. So you can see that out now. The Cyclone's up right now, and honestly this guy probably should have sent it out right away and started trying to deal damage, because even these two units versus one Cyclone, they would both lose. That's how strong this thing is, but this guy is apparently not as wizened up to how strong that's going to be. His command center is super late as well, so this is one downside. Especially in this game, if you open gas first like he did, you have to send these first couple units out and try to do something with it. But seriously, in all honesty guys, this Cyclone would kill both of these units if I was not controlling properly, which my control would probably have to just be run away and overcharge as soon as possible. So you can see both of us just making workers right now, getting our bases going. My Warp Gate's super late because it did open with that kind of strange expansion opener where I got Warp Gate after Mothership Core and a Stalker. Oracle coming out now. I'm going to try to go in and see what I can find out with the Oracle, maybe do a little bit of harassment damage. You can see the abilities are the same except for the Stasis Ward, which I will use a little bit later in the game. Terran looks like he's going to be playing mech, so you can see the 3 factories coming up here as well, along with the armory, so definitely kind of screaming mech right now. I unfortunately don't really have any idea until I see the Cyclones, but look how easily the Cyclones kill the Oracle, and I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is autocast, so This will basically lock onto any unit within its range, and this effectively is just a Phoenix that can hit air and ground at super long ranges. These things are super strong, guys. By the way, we should check the cost here. And yeah, it is 150, 150. So you can see these are pretty damn expensive, even though they are really strong. So back at home, I'm just grabbing a second Stargate since I'm pretty sure it's mech. I did see the factories here, or at least I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, I did see 2 factories, so that's got to be mech. 2 factories with anything else doesn't really make a lot of sense. Terran's starting to wisen up a little bit, get these cyclones on the map. And since he has cyclones, my only thought here is that I need to find some way to deal with these economically, so I'm just trying to get Phoenix out as soon as possible so I can just lift them one at a time. But even still, it's really tough. By the way, I just barely realized that you can actually turn off the autocasting on this, but the hotkeys are so weird in this game and they're so messed up and janky, just because it is a beta, that I kind of miss this quite a bit. So if I was paying attention, I could have detonated it right now and gotten all these, which would have been an easy kill. But I just now realize it, only get 1, and I actually couldn't even see that on my screen, so I don't even know if I got anything. So those are weird. It's going to take a long time for people to get used to that. But I'm just trying to get as many Phoenix out as possible here to deal with these cyclones, since I'm not sure what the real answer is to these things right now. I'll have to check the tags as well. Yeah, they're armored and mechanical, so oracles will be pretty bad against them. Phoenixes are only going to be useful because it will lift them up and kind of disable them from doing anything. So I think Phoenix openers are going to be kind of a thing. So you can see he comes up here. I try to lift as many of them as I can, but even still, you can see these things are just wrecking my Phoenix. So we've basically traded almost evenly. And there also is, by the way, a little bit of a cooldown on these things once they're done. So you can see once you're locked on, it does have to go on a cooldown before it will target something else. So yet another thing that kind of makes these things not super crazy, but still pretty strong. So since I realized that's pretty much all he has, and he didn't really do that much, I'm just going to go ahead and expand again. By the way, look at the game timer. This is 7 minutes, which seems so weird because there are games in Heart of the Swarm normally where you look at the game timer and you expand to a second base at 7 minutes. And, you know, say like PvP, for example, in a weird game, sometimes you wouldn't take your natural until 7 minutes. I'm already taking a third, and it even feels a little bit weird. It feels a little bit late, to be honest, considering I do have a reasonable amount of production. But okay, let's talk a little bit about mech here and what mech is going to have to kind of adjust to in the future. The reason that I've been saying this for a while, that people are kind of misguided on why mech doesn't really work in Heart of the Swarm, and it didn't really work because carriers and Tempests were just too good. And I know you're saying, like, what? Carriers and Tempests? I never saw that. And that's because everyone claimed that Immortals were too strong against mech. So what do? They nerf the Immortals so that Immortal strategies are not really that viable against mech anymore. But the reality was that Terran still doesn't really have an answer to carriers and to Tempests in really high amounts. You might think Cyclones do pretty well against them, but the Interceptors really rip these guys up, especially since you can just drop the Interceptors basically wherever you want. And there's not a whole lot that the Cyclones can do about that. By the way, getting an upgrade here, this increases the Cyclone lock-on range from 6 to 9, which is pretty nice. Not the biggest change in the whole world, but at least it does help you deal with those longer range units. So you can see him grabbing that upgrade, as well as drilling claws for Widow Mines. Nothing too crazy here. I'm just grabbing a disruptor or two just to see what I can get done with it. Maybe see if I can blow up parts of his army and whatnot. I do have an observer out here so I can kind of see what he's doing. And by the way, guys, if you're looking at these money counts here, this opponent wasn't the greatest, and it's hard to find really balanced games in this right now because there's barely anybody playing. So likely you'll either get somebody that was in like Gold or Platinum League, or you're going to get somebody that's like legit pro. Like you'll hit people like who did I hit the other day? I'm trying to remember his name. Why can't oh, Ragnarok. Yeah, I played Ragnarok earlier, who is a well-known GSL player in Korea. He's really, really good. Disruptor comes in here, doesn't quite kill those, but you can see that it does quite a lot of damage. 145 damage on these things, it's a lot. But if there is a unit that's ever over that threshold, it does take 2 hits. So I basically lost a Disruptor just to try and kill these Cyclones, considering I wasn't totally familiar with how many hit points these guys had. So Terran just goes ahead and repairs. I am starting carriers right now, as well as the deployment mode for Interceptors to get them out there a little bit faster. You will note that the carriers are building faster, so the build time on this is only 64, which amounts to 90 in the old one, whereas they used to be 120, so about 50% faster. Trying to spot to see what's going on here. He obviously has no idea this observer is here. If he was spending his money, this would be a lot closer game, but unfortunately he's not. Second disruptor coming in here. I'm trying to see what I can do, and I'm trying to really time this out so I can get this to the middle of his mineral line, but you can see I kind of messed up the timing a little bit. There's a lock-on from the cyclones. They kill it pretty easily. 300 gas to only kill like 7 SCVs is not really worth it, but if I got a nice hit in the middle of this, it would have totally been worth it. So yeah, still just incrementing out carriers, trying to get charge here to make my zealots a little bit more worthwhile. Terran's really not doing anything too special, just double mech upgrades. Couple of starports here. He's going to eventually try to get into battle cruisers, but doesn't really do it super well. The game just kind of awkwardly ends before that point. Not too much exciting stuff going on. 10 minutes and 30 seconds taking a 4th base right now. And by the way, this is really common to have taken a 3rd base once your main begins to mine out. So you can see I'm only mining on 4 patches here. That's because the smaller patches have already been mined out for quite a while. And they will actually tend to mine out by the time you're ready to take your 3rd base. So if you check my worker count, I'm only at 64, and that's literally because I couldn't actually make use of more workers than that. So I think you're going to see a lot of games where people don't get up to as many workers as they did before in Heart of the Swarm. We'll just have to wait and see on that, but it's definitely a possibility. Templar Archives coming down right now for myself. There's a fusion core for the battlecruisers to get started. This guy's making a lot of cyclones, and honestly he should have a lot more factories to start mixing in Hellions and Hellbats and stuff. Because one thing you want to do with mech is you want to start incrementing out Hellions and Hellbats to get a mineral dump, and to start really trying to downgrade the economy of your opponent by just running Hellions in and dealing a lot of damage. You can see I have an okay amount of units, but if there was a drop here and a secondary run by here, he could get a lot of damage done, and it'd be quite a big deal. If you're not doing that, you at the very least need to definitely be making extra command centers so that you can have extra mules and whatnot. By the way, I'm just trying some Phoenix harass here. My Phoenix are getting absolutely wrecked by the cyclones right now. Zealots did a decent amount of damage. You can see 20 workers have been killed so far throughout this game from the Phoenix and from the Zealots and from that disruptor earlier. So pretty decent amount, but not too bad. So since I realize he does have battlecruisers on the way, I'm not totally sure what the answer to battlecruisers is going to be long term, so I just start incrementing out void rays the best I can. So that's, I don't know, we'll have to see how battlecruisers work out, but honestly I think if they just keep battlecruisers how they are, and Protoss doesn't really have a solid response to them, then that'll be good. Here's a big engagement coming up here right now, and you can see how hard these cyclones just wreck everything. Those Zealots stood absolutely no chance, but once you have the carriers out, you can see I start using the deploy interceptor mode, and these interceptors will just stick around until they run out, at which point they'll all die. But it basically means that I can commit with my carriers without actually really losing anything. All I'm going to lose are these interceptors, and that's guaranteed, but I can be rebuilding interceptors while this is going on. These interceptors will eventually die. You can see their lifespan on here. I can't select one, so I can show you the timer, but getting a couple of Widow Mines here as well. Phoenix coming in for a little bit more harass, just being as annoying as possible. These cyclones are super strong though, guys. Like these are pretty crazy, and if this guy was mining a little bit better, maybe he expanded a little bit faster, this would have been a lot more devastating. You can see the interceptors are going to start to die, so they definitely do all blow up after a certain amount of time, but by the time those are done, my carriers are almost refilled, so not that big of a commitment. The big surprising thing was that how many minerals this actually cost me. Like, I try to expand at this base for the longest time, not realizing that the carriers are actually draining all my resources. So I'm just going to deploy these interceptors here again. You guys can see that it's going to wreck absolutely everything. And if Terran tries to come in here and stop this, like, he doesn't really have enough to deal with this right now. So I've seen this a lot on streams as well, where if you ever get ahead with carriers, the game's basically over, because you can just trade like this all day long. And if they try to come in here and trade, you can see, yeah, they're killing interceptors, but I've already accepted that these things are going to die, so it doesn't even matter to me. So I kill this base easily, kill all these extra barracks. This Terran really should have better spending, and if he did, this probably would have been a lot closer game, but like I said, it's hard to find equal opponents. You either usually just get dominated, or you just dominate your opponent so far in Legacy of the Void, and that'll happen until we start to get more players on. So you can see, check out my minerals here. I remember sending this probe down a long time ago when I was at about 200 minerals, and I haven't really done anything except for deploy those interceptors, and I came back and I'm like, wait, why is my money so low? That's because I'm paying so much for these interceptors. to refill each carrier, you can see the interceptors take 25 minerals. So to refill every carrier is 200 minerals if you decide to deploy that. And 200 times these 8. It's turning into a lot of money here. So you definitely need to be ready to gas dump into something, whether it's Disruptors or Templar, which is what I've chosen to support these carriers right now. But if you can keep doing this, like, I don't really know what Terran has to answer this right now. The carrier interceptor deployment actually seems insanely strong. And like I said, it's to the point where if you ever get ahead with carriers, I don't feel like you're ever going to lose a game. So we'll have to see how that eventually works out. But it's super strong. You can see me deploying the interceptors here again. This time he kind of catches me a little bit, but the interceptors will still prioritize appropriately. So I think I might have lost, what, one carrier? Yeah, I lost one carrier. Getting really good trades here. This base lost all of its SCVs. Still killed a couple of Thors, so even while losing the 1600 minerals that I just basically accepted losing, I'm still getting way better trades out of that than I probably should be. So I'm kind of scared for this carrier change to stick around. You can see the supplies are 178 to 89, mostly because he's just not making Hellions or Hellbats. He's trying to stockpile battlecruisers here, which is a little bit weird. And right now I have a lot of Templar with a lot of energy, so I'm just trying to see how much I can trade. And honestly, I've known he's dead for a while right now. I just kind of want to experiment and see how this all works and how it feels. See, those Cyclones will just wreck my Templar if I'm not careful, so I'm losing a lot of Templar here, but it's not the biggest of deals considering this game's been over for quite a while. The big important thing I have to continue to stress here, guys, is the bases are going to mine out really fast. You can see my second base is already mined out here as well, even though it doesn't seem that far into the game. The 3 fully mining bases rule definitely still does apply, but it's going to take less workers than ever to do this. I'm still on only 64. I could probably afford a little bit more, but I should even be thinking about taking another base right now, just because I'm just so low on resources. Even with everything that's gone on, it still seems a little bit hard to keep my resources around. Again, just fly my carriers in here, deploy the interceptors, see what they can do. Worst case scenario, they die to the battlecruisers, but even if I kill one battlecruiser, it's almost worth it at this point. You can see the interceptors are really bad against battlecruisers too, because he's at 3-3, and if you look at this, he's only taking like 2 points of damage for every hit from an interceptor. So these things are actually doing pretty well. There's the battlecruiser warp in, which he just warps into my natural. Honestly, this isn't going to do a whole lot, but you can at least see the potential here. Just be able to warp in your battlecruisers wherever you want. There's a Widow Mine here. By the way, a little bit of a subtle thing. Whatever the Widow Mine is targeting, there will be a line to that unit, so you can actually see what it's targeting now. And so you can split against it a little bit better. I thought that was kind of a cool addition. But even with all those carrier things, I do eventually come over here and clean them up with the Void Rays and Storm and whatnot. And there's an audio glitch because I can hear the Void Ray going off and nothing's happening, but kind of a weird game, and not the most interesting game, but I thought I really wanted to show you guys how the new interceptors work. They're pretty crazy, and you can just deploy them wherever you want, and they will just kill everything, as you guys saw. So, kind of a strange game. I'll try to get better games against some more appropriate competition, but thus far the games have been really silly. Nobody's really playing well, and your opponents are totally unpredictable since it is just entirely unranked. So the games will be strange for a little while. I'm trying to get some replays from pro players, but the problem is that as soon as they update something or change versions, it won't let me actually load that replay. So I did get a couple of higher level replays that I can't use right now, so I'm trying to get some more. As soon as I get those, I'll go ahead and cast those games for you guys so you can check out the cool stuff that higher level players are doing. And by higher level players, I mean pro players. So we'll have to see, but I hope you guys at least enjoyed the game. I'll be back really soon with more videos, so be sure to check those out in the very near future. I'll see you guys very soon.